Well, it's been a while since we've done a show, but here we are, man, and it's been
Yeah, it
a
has.
crazy few weeks, Nick. And I thought we'd just dive right into it. It's been pretty topsy turvy, right, for the last few weeks. It was kind of a bummer, and you'd check in and say, "Oh, I'm doing great," and then, "Oh no, I'm not." And now I can actually say, "Nick, how are you doing?" And I think you can
I'm
give me an
doing
honest
great.
answer.
Still living off the great down to the wire win, and which is Seahawks fashion. Got to make it
Yeah, it
entertaining.
is. And it's funny how whether it's Seahawks fashion from a low score and people getting upset because, geez, we can't score
Right.
and we just don't do anything and we wait till the end, or if it's a score 30 points and, it looks like we're going to go ahead by 14 and then give them the rock back with 98 yards to go. And then they figure out how to get about 92 of those yards, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think, man? Give me the kind of give me just an overall impression. Let's just, we know who each other are. We know the shows we do and everything else. So let's just dive right into it. Kind of like we do when we're randomly texting or calling when we're checking in from time to
Yep.
time. Tell me about the game. Tell me what your thoughts were, what you thought about it. By the way, it's Nick LaBow who I'm talking to here, part of the
Yeah.
Special Teams for Life. But this is a special, so we're not focusing as much on the special teams as we are going to focus on Seattle Seahawks in general. Just there's just so much going on. So Nick, talk to me, man. Tell me about the
Yeah, I
game. What you
mean,
thought, what your
it
thoughts were.
was it was good to get a win again. I think the 12s and all of us fans and even the players and coaches too, they really needed it. It's good for morale, all that stuff. There's definitely and most clearly some stuff we still have to work on both sides of the football. But it was a good win. We played hard. We got turnovers. I think we had like 3 turnovers. We had an amazing fake punt, which we've talked about previously on the show. We'd like to see some more of that. We'll definitely be talking about that later. Um, but there was a lot to be happy with in this game. A lot of things we did good, but also a lot of stuff we still have to improve on.
Yeah, so let's we've spent so much time kind of harping on some of the negative. Well, let's hit on some of the good things. What would be if there was one takeaway that you're like, man, as our thumbnail said, is there hope for the future, or is it let's hope for some people to leave and get out of here? But in terms of hope for the future, whether it's hope for this next game, hope for the rest of the season, hoping in next year, give me one takeaway that when you came out of the Sunday afternoon, you're like, man, it was nice to finally see this or that or something got you excited. What was it for you? And it can be more
Well,
than
I
one
think
thing.
I think mine's got to be on the offensive side of the ball. Our offense in the past week has been super sluggish, not moving the football very effectively and very well, not getting into the end zone that much. And while there's still a lot to improve on offensively, I feel like we improved a lot and we were able to get into the end zone. And yeah, so offensively, I think there's definitely stuff we have to do better on, but a lot that we did kind of improve on from the last few weeks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think when you win a game when it's close like that, yeah, and it's this way for every fan. It's not just in Seattle; it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like you win a close game that comes down to that final play, and everything's great. The week's great, work's great, the family's great, the dog's great, all those things are great. School's great, but I mean, one play at the end, and it flips the other direction, right? If they convert
Yeah.
it, all of a sudden, all those great things turn into fire Pete. What's wrong with Russ?
Right.
Special teams is awful. Get rid of
Yeah.
Norton. Where's Shane Waldron's offense? So, all these different things. And now it's like, people don't, pick it apart or look for those things. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of good things. I think for me, for me as a coach, longtime coach who's been a fan of Pete Carroll, it was nice for me to see the things that I know is still in him, that I still believe in him, and the reasons why I want him to
Yeah.
stick around. Because
I agree.
to say a team, has quit on Pete Carroll, I think it was shown that this team does not quit on Pete Carroll. I think to say that he's not willing to be original. Let's see here. We got a special team show, and one of the biggest things we're going to talk about here shortly is, what happens when a team, starts off the game instead of ending the game with a tying or game-winning field goal. Start off. I mean, that was a big energizer for the 12s, really, was what it was. I think it was nice to see Russ had a pretty good high percentage. There's some things I'm still really, really concerned with him as a player, just as a player. But it was 30 for 37. I mean, he had kind of the type of game we want to have. And it was nice to see some pretty solid licks. Like I saw some
Yeah.
game time adjustments, and super happy for Shane Waldron. Of all the things, really, really happy to see, first quarter, there were some issues that, again, I can't blame Shane on
For
a lot
sure.
of the stuff, but this one was nice to see him really have some cemented things happen for him. So
Yeah.
lot of different things there. A lot of different things. If you were Nick, if you were going to go into, going into this next week, if you're the head coach and you're talking to them about, hey, we did these good things, but man, we still got to fix this. What is the we got to fix this thing?
I think the we got to fix this thing is on the defensive side of the ball. I think George Kittle, he went off. He had an incredible day. So it'd be nice to be able to kind of work to where we can minimize tight ends from having big games. In the past, prior games, we've seen kind of those guys, the tight ends, the running backs off like little check routes or over the middle have big games, and we've gotten burned over the middle in a lot of games. So definitely that. And I think what I'm telling the guys too is next man up. I mean, this game, while it was a good win, I'm going to kind of go to the negative here for a bit. We got banged up pretty bad. Jamal Adams now out for the season. So, those next guys really have to
talking about
step
those
up.
two things, about Jamal Adams, in case somebody sees this and they're like, what happened with Jamal Adams? And next man up. Talk about those two concepts. So first of all, Jamal Adams, like what happened there?
Jamal, I think in the fourth quarter got pretty banged up. I think he tore his labrum, which is in your shoulder. It was the same shoulder he had problems with earlier last season. So he's going to get surgery on that to fix that all up. Hopefully he gets all better and he's ready to be out there 100% in next season, because we'll definitely need him. And then kind of the next man up concept is where when the guy goes down, the star like Jamal Adams is on our defense, next guy's got to be ready to come up, take his position, and play their best and play good football. And so definitely here, we got next man up with Ryan Neal, who's the backup safety. He's a pretty solid player. He's got a lot of potential, and he really has to step it up if we want to try to get into the playoffs and eventually, hopefully, make a playoff run.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So great job explaining that too. I mean, I think some people heard next man up or, those things, but that's something that's Pete's had since, his USC days. And then he brought it here in terms of, compete, which was his big thing, come PETE. But also that next man up concept that seems to be adopted by a lot of people. I'm not saying that Pete created it, but there's something to be said when people come into something and they, a lot of times as coaches, there hasn't really been an original idea in about 100 years when it comes to coaching. But there's a difference between coming in and saying something and really believing it and getting your team to buy into it, and coming in and just saying stuff because it sounds good in a press conference, saying stuff to your team, but you can tell the team doesn't really buy it. And I think from day one, this team really bought into the, next man up idea, and really goes to, I think that's competition at the pro level, right? I mean, you have to step up. And if you're the guy who's playing, who got hurt, you got to hustle to get back because that next man up for the Seattle Seahawks might take your spot. You might never get it back, right? You might find yourself on the trading block or something else. So
right.
I think we're very lucky that way. But it was definitely fun, right? I mean, it was fun to watch a game that came down to the wire, all those neat things that, I love the chess match. I think you do too. I think you love seeing, what our coach is going to call, because I think you got that future coach inside of you. But, there's definitely people are still having issues with certain things. What do you think that for the fans, even though we're kind of on cloud nine for the 1 week, is there an overhanging cloud so far? So now I'm going to kind of go a little bit more global with you, buddy. What's the biggest hanging cloud still, even though we won the game? Is it Pete? Is it Russ? Is it, whatever, is it Schneider? What is the biggest thing you think that's still like, man, this is just going to hang over us for the rest of the season? If you can only pick one to be at the very top.
Overall, just the fact that coming into the season, we thought our team was going to be a lot better. We're still 4-8, which is, I think, like, it's bad. Definitely a losing record. Our playoff chances are below I think 3%. I'd say 3%.
Yeah, 3 might be kind of high.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean, the other day, it was weird to see the other day on ESPN, they showed the kind of division leaders, those who are in the playoffs, and then the contenders. I mean, there's like 15 teams, and to not see us, I mean, 50, probably 14, maybe 13, 14, 15 of the NFC team. I mean, I'm just talking NFC. Well, there's only 16 NFC teams, right? to
Right.
not see the Seahawks on that list was like,
Yeah.
wow, we've fallen from grace a little bit here. But again, you lose Russ for 3 games, everything else. So
Mhm.
keep going with your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, no one really predicted this. I mean, everyone thought we were kinda gonna be riding the division, be making a Super Bowl run. So I think that fact of we're massively underperforming, and Russ was out for 3 games, that's definitely gonna hurt us, but it's more than just Russ being out, okay? Our team has not played very good on both sides of the ball this season, where we've
And
been
special teams. We've let
and
down some
special teams.
lots of kicks. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of kicks that are wide left, wide right. Um, and I think a lot of fans thought that this team was a lot deeper, than it is, and we've kinda saw that. I think we expected more production out of the defensive line where really other than, Darrell Taylor, we've kinda been lacking in at least that pass rushing presence of the defensive line. So I think a lot of fans thought that this season was gonna be a lot better, and I think the cloud kinda looming over us is just that fact of we got a lot to fix this offseason, and it might need more off seasons. We might have to use the next offseason and the following offseason to really rebuild this team into being kinda true contenders rather
Yeah.
than saying a contending pretender.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I pulled up this piece right here that we can look at just for a second. This is the piece I was talking about, where it's just so strange to see
Yeah.
to see all those teams.
Philadelphia,
And
6
now
and
granted, this is
7.
before, this is during the game, so some of
Right.
this changed a little bit, but still, I mean, you're looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the
Yeah.
16 teams, and we're not on that list, right? So that's
Mhm.
pretty crazy when you see those type of things.
Yeah. A lot of kinda surprises this season in the NFL. I don't think
What's
anyone
been your
really
biggest surprise? What do you think's been the biggest surprise?
I think the biggest surprise, honestly, isn't even in the division. I think it's the AFC, and,
Oh yeah,
there
yeah.
were a lot of teams in the AFC, kind of the Dolphins, I think a lot of people thought were gonna do better. The Colts, they've kinda gotten on a roll, but I think they had a kinda downward trend earlier in the season. And the Bengals, I mean, a lot of people thought the Bengals were
Yeah,
gonna
the
be
Bengals for sure.
contenders for the number 1 pick in the draft, but, I mean, now they're what? They're in the wild
They got a
card
shot at it. Yeah.
picture. Yeah, they have a shot at it, and they got a pretty good team. So yeah, there have been a lot of surprises this season. I think on a game by game basis and a week by week basis too. I mean, there's been a lot of upsets. Going on to a couple weeks ago, I think when shoot, I don't want to get this wrong. I think it was Jacksonville or one of those top kind of tier teams beat the Bills. Like Bills are projected to be like a top team, and they've kind of also hit their downward kind of trend. So there have been a lot of surprises kind of standing wise. I don't think many people really expected the Cardinals and Cowboys to kind of be close and contending to the top of the
Yeah.
NFC. I think we all kind of expected the Rams, Packers, Buccaneers,
Yeah, kind of the
those teams
regular
to kind of
foes,
do
yeah.
well.
Well,
Um,
and you nailed it, Nick, from a standpoint, going back to what you said at the very beginning in terms of
yeah,
people, I think, overestimated what we had and underestimated what everybody else had. And I
right.
remember I've seen you say it on multiple shows and people you've talked to. I've definitely said it on a lot of shows where, yeah, it was exciting that we got an offensive coordinator, that we have Russ, that we have these 2 great receivers, that, we thought we were going to have Carson back,
Mhm,
healthy. So we thought we were going to have that. We signed
right.
offensive linemen, defense gets stronger. We got our kicker. And people forget, well, if you take every other team and look at their quarterback, their 2 receivers, their running back, their offensive coordinator, their defensive middle linebacker, their
Yep.
tight end, you start looking at all those pieces, like, man, they have more when you start weighing all those. And that's, I can't
Mhm,
remember exactly who you predicted early on, but I think I know I'd pick Seattle to finish 3rd in our division. I
yeah.
think a lot of people were like, oh, they're going to battle for the division. It's like, man, it is going to be tough for us to
Mhm,
to battle for that. And I think neither one of us thought we were going to be below our low end selections when
mhm.
we did our predictions.
Yeah,
I think your low end was 11-6 and mine was 10-7.
yeah.
Um, but again, like we play Kittle and we see these Hall of Fame dudes that come and they just beat us which
Yeah.
speaks to one of the topics I wanted to bring up with you, is the idea of a playmaker. Like, I think one of the things that we are missing, and I know if anybody sees this, they're going to probably think I'm an idiot, but I'm not. I kind of maybe at times. We do not have a true playmaker, and I'm talking. I know DK. Everybody loves to say that he's great. He made a spectacular defensive play. Yes, defensive from an offensive position when he chased down Buda Baker, and that really got him up on the map. And then he's made some great, couple slants and outrun people.
For sure.
But I'm talking the guy that when you need a big play, when you need to toss it up in the air and it's Hopkins going up in the air and catching a Hail Mary at the end of the game, when it's these other dudes that are making plays, we do not have that go-to playmaker that you just go, man, we're going to be able to count on him.
Right.
Tyler Lockett is a great player. I mean, he's a great player. He gets wide open. He's my favorite guy out there. But he's not the guy at the end of the game. You're like, man, he's going to break away and we're going to get him and all those other things. And people think DK is the guy. Other teams have that guy. And the best example of it is the Green Bay Packers. I mean, how many times have you seen Aaron Rodgers throw the ball to Adams when everybody in the stadium knows Adams getting the ball? He's getting double covered. Rodgers is getting rid of it quick. And Adams is getting the proper distance, the proper yardage on the proper play to get there. And I think we just do not have that playmaker, man. And that's where I get a little frustrated. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you look at these teams at the top. I mean, Dallas, they have CeeDee Lamb, great. Zeke, those are two kind of good playmakers for them. Obviously, Kittle and the 49ers, he's kind of had a down season, but he's still a guy that can change a game for them, and he definitely changed the game for them this past game. We saw it a couple weeks ago when we played the Saints. Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry with the Titans. I mean, we really do lack those guys. We have good stars. I think Bobby Wagner is definitely probably our most consistent star on a game-to-game basis, but he's not a guy that's necessarily, I don't want to say like changing a game, because he definitely changes a game. He's a phenomenal player. But he doesn't really have that high up top playmaking. Like when you say playmaker, you don't necessarily think of Bobby Wagner. Great player.
Well, and the way I'd look at that, Nick, is, we used to say, be the player that the other team coaches warns his team about.
Yeah.
Be the player that the other team's coaches warn his team about. I don't know that Bobby Wagner's ever been. He's definitely he's a Hall of Famer. Love watching him play, all those things. But he's not a feared, like, that guy's going to crush you. Man, every time we play the Seahawks, man, Bobby Wagner he's all over the field. It's like he's this quiet assassin that gets his 15 tackles, a couple solo tackles, may get a sack here or there, made the great pick. And in fact, on cue, I can pop this in here for us real quick. Let me pop this over the top. So this was Bobby's interception. And the reason why I'm putting this on here is because I think what it does is it shows people who think that he's too slow or doesn't understand it. This is what makes him a Hall of Famer, but what also it doesn't make him, the most feared guy in the league. And I think they come to it with a little illustrating piece here in a little bit. It's right about here. So you can see where he's lined up, and this is what makes him different than everybody else, is the fact that, and they're doing the illustration on this, obviously, on this one, but he takes a great angle towards the run. But look at the angle. What he didn't say in the play-by-play, he talked about how he got up there and recovered, but the reason he recovered is because he took this absolutely phenomenal angle going backwards. He doesn't go straight back. Look at his feet. His legs are going at a 45-degree angle because he took a quick peek and saw that he could become a robber underneath. Typically, a robber is the guy who's back here as a safety, and he robs it up here. But the fact that he went up into that run and then robbed it, that's what makes him the Hall of Famer that he is. But it's not that fearsome. Like Jamal Adams is feared. Like he's like, that guy's going to come, and where's he coming from? Where's he going to line up? But again, just to show regular speed, just to watch Bobby do his thing it is fun to watch, right? But it speaks to exactly what you're talking to. Not the guy that you think at the end of the game, he is going to come up with something. He's just a very, very, very solid player who's done it for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd kind of say the same thing for Lockett. Lockett has these maybe 3-4 weeks where he just breaks out, where he's making incredible catches that you couldn't think even were able to be made with his toe tapping ability. And Lockett can definitely change a game for us, but he doesn't have that kind of consistency where he's doing it on a game-to-game basis where, like, if, say, we're down 7 with a minute and a half to go, he's not the guy that's necessarily getting double covered. And we don't really have that on offense, that guy where, hey, look at this. Okay, minute and a half left. We got to protect him. Watch this player. We really don't have that.
No, and so I think that's where we're gonna have to do something in the off season. Obviously, you can't really do anything about it now, but I think that's where we underestimated, or where I think people just thought that, hey, we'll just throw the ball to DK 20 times a game and he's gonna make a bunch of plays. And he's still pretty raw. I mean, he's got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do in blocking. I mean, I've got about 12 plays that I'm working on editing right now based off just the first quarter. I'm just going to do a video with regards to the first quarter of what I saw the other day, good and the bad, like good, bad, and the ugly, of why Russ can be so great at times, but why he can be just frustrating at times, why it's not always the O-line, some of those type of things that you and I talk about a lot. All right, let's talk about special teams, right? Lots of awesome stuff with regards to special teams this year. It's been a crazy year, even at the college level, even at the high school level. I've seen a bunch of high school games this year where it's like, this has just been bizarre. It's kind of like how culture's been the last 2 years. But I've said all the time, and you've heard me say it, I said it on our first show, the best time to utilize special teams as a weapon is when nobody's expecting you to do it, right? Or expecting some sort of a fake. And we discussed in our first special teams show how the last time Pete Carroll really kind of went out of his way to do something that nobody expected was the NFC Championship game against Green Bay when they ran the fake field goal. Nobody, not even me, nobody was thinking about it. There have been other times, and we've showed it, fake punt up the middle and those things. But in those situations, we're up by 25 and like, okay, it's not that big a deal. Like, it's not a game-changing thing.
Right.
This call the other day that I'll put up here, it is one of the best calls Seattle Seahawks have ever made in the history of Seattle Seahawks football, because we're on a losing streak. We need some energy.
It's the first drive of the game.
It's the first drive of the game. We're at the 27 yard line. Nobody in their right mind is expecting it, yet they obviously scouted it, saw what was going on, saw that there was a defensive end that was going to rush inside. They knew they could get the 2 flyers on the outside, the 2 defensive guys that are defending the flyer, to get their backs turned, and then for him to go. But so this one, we're going to do a little double breakdown. I know we haven't watched this together, which I think is fun. This is the fun part of this. So let me pull this in and we'll go full on this one here. All right. I wish I could make it. Let's see if I can get it full screen. Yeah, there we go. All right. So what you get here, and just, and I think everybody's probably seen it, right? So it's not that anybody hasn't seen it before. But again, this is, and I used to love teaching courses to parents that would, at the beginning of the season, and I did something with the Gridiron Moms, I called it. So every year I do a Gridiron Moms 101 class where I'd bring them in and, kind of show them the nuances of the game and how to have fun and how to enjoy it. But here's what makes this great is everybody obviously sees that we get a great return, and wow, man, he went and he got it. He made it happen. Homer scores a touchdown. What they don't see really is the scheme or necessarily the concept. This is more of a concept because it's actual play. Couple things. First, they obviously saw that this guy, something told him that he was going to go inside. Because if this guy does his true contain, which he's supposed to do, most ends come up here, make sure it's punted. They knew he was going to go inside, number one. And number two, this guy knows that when he goes outside, they're obviously going to turn and run their back. But here's what I want you to watch, Nick. This is the best part of this. Here's our special teams captain, Belfour, over here on Belfour on this right guard and the right tackle. Both of them let these 2 guys go. And it's a concept that I ran all the time because these 2 guys on the defensive end and the defensive quasi end over here also, they're not going to get this. They're not going to get homers. So they let this whole side basically go. So watch these 2 guys right here. Let's see if we get in here. See how they immediately release?
Yeah.
So there they are. So they're
now
right
they're
there.
Blockers.
Yeah. So now they become blockers. And that's the beauty of this. If anybody was wanting to see, like, well, how does it become an actual blocked play? Well, punt is an offensive play. Kickoff return is offensive play. Like, these are off until the ball's punted. Then it becomes a defensive assignment. Now, that snap was pretty high, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, look where he catches the ball. when I watched the end zone view
Mhm.
earlier today, I was like, man, oh man, that ball is up there. So great job catching. Always have to have an actor back here. So you're always telling your punter,
Right.
make it look like the ball went somewhere. So did an okay job acting, but this is the best part, man. You get great seal block here. The fact that our right guard and our right tackle they just slip through. The center pushes, they go through, and then now it's become super important. And why is that? Because he knows that he's there. Homer knows that he's got his captain,
Yep.
and he utilizes him. Like most dudes are just going to run. This is where they get in trouble, right? And the punt returner does something that causes problems. He sets him up. He settles, sets him up. I mean, it's awesome. Boom, right there.
Yeah.
That is it's golden, man. It is just absolutely golden. And look right here. Now, typically our rule is never block behind the ball carrier. Always, if you're behind the ball carrier, we don't get blocks in the back. However, if you're going to turn and face someone, that's okay. Well, that's what you get here. He does a nice job in settling there because that's the most dangerous guy after this guy's taken care of. And if he cuts back too far, I mean, who knows? Maybe this guy does catch him with 40 yards to go because he's had to slow down. So it's just a great concept all the way around, man. I was just amped, like all of Seattle was. But to finally see something, man, where it's like, geez, we actually did something that we really wanted to have. We wanted to get things going. People are pumped up. The crowd's going nuts. It was just really, really cool to see. It took us back kind of, I think, to the old days.
It did.
Right?
Yeah.
So talk to me, Nick, about how something like that impacts the overall game, right? I mean, all the way to the end.
Well, I think there's definitely a momentum shift, from San Francisco's offense or whatever. They're getting ready to get the ball. Okay. It's a routine punt. All of a sudden, their unit on defense, special teams defense, gives up 70 yards off a fake punt. I mean, gosh, that's got to kill your confidence. And so then even after the whole touchdown PAT, when the offense gets the ball, they still have that in their mind. Okay, they go from being excited, okay, we're getting the ball and kind of having that momentum to the feeling of they have the lead, we got to go score.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just lots of Uncle Mo, as we used to call it, right? So lots of Uncle Mo that comes in and shows up, and all of a sudden it just changes the landscape of everything. And it's just amazing that infusion, what takes place when boom, all of a sudden you think you're getting the ball, you're down 7. I mean, all the things that I don't need to repeat that you said. And then it just carries you all the way through. And now it became the game-winning touchdown. Like when people say, well, it's the plays at the beginning of the game don't matter as much. Hey, man, every single play counts, right? I mean, I've never drawn a play on a board, whether it be a chalkboard years ago, a whiteboard, or now on PCs. I've never diagrammed a play to gain 4 yards or 2 yards or 18. Every play is diagrammed to score a touchdown. Well, same thing on a fake. So those plays in the first quarter, while you may be using them to set up stuff, it's great. However, this is always where that time of possession comment comes in. And I wanted to mention Seahawks Sage, who may now be out because I know he's out there in the Midwest, about to turn in for the night, but saw the thumbnail and had to pop in. So best of luck. Go Hawks. Hey, Seahawks Sage, thanks for joining us.
You.
And look at this. Got the mom, Susan Marsh McMahon, is on. She says, welcome back. I see Cameron Hughes on here. Yep, Kevin, you're right. I got to get you on one of these. I know you love special teams, and he had a great run. I think they won their final 3 or 4 games of the season where he plays high school football to make a playoff push. Got into the game to get into state, the battle to get into the state playoffs, and lost a tough one to one of the top teams in the state. Cameron, I see some of your other ones here, and I'll definitely get to those. Let's see his comment on the Disley block. A Disley block would have been a penalty in high school. And so many return TDs called back because of them. Funny you say that. So in my final 4 years, we didn't have one block in the back. We didn't have a single block in the back in 4 years. I hired a new special teams coach. He played at WSU. Just, absolutely phenomenal. And we changed our scheme. But it was finally nice to have another voice that was just constantly harping, hey, you do not ever block someone if you are behind the ball carrier. So our guys knew how to get their singular guy and then find the ball carrier. And then the goal is everybody sprint to beat him in the end zone. And there's so many. And you're right, Cameron, at the high school level, you get that block. If you get a block within 10 yards of the guy, even if it's behind, and you make a good block, because there was a couple of years ago in the NFL where a guy made just a phenomenal block but they called him for a penalty, even though because it was
Oh
10
yeah.
or 15 yards behind, So yeah, it's good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's crazy stuff there, man. So I
Gotta
want to
know the
speak to
rules.
one of the special teams things also was back in the Washington game.
Oh
Let's
yeah. There were a
flashback
lot of
back to
good
that real
ones
quick.
in the Washington game.
Oh man, a lot of crazy stuff. But there at the end, this onside kick,
Oh yeah.
right? Total bummer. We
It
we
was.
get it, and then we find out that we have a misaligned player who ironically was our captain. But that's the rule, man. And it's just it
Yeah.
was so funny to listen to people on shows berate the officials and that's a dumb rule and that's so stupid. But you know what? If we'd have been on the other side, we'd have been saying, why are they letting them get away with that rule? If also the
For sure.
official talked and said, we decided Seahawks were not in the thing. Well, for those of us who understand the rule, it'd be, hey, that's the way it is. So, and the reason I share that with you,
Rules
Nick,
a
is
rule.
a rule is a rule. I share that with you because in the state, I went to the state title game the other day,
Okay.
Bellevue and Kennewick, phenomenal game.
It was.
I mean, it was great. So you get a player at the end who, near the end of the game, ball gets kickoff takes place. Player runs over to the sideline, touches his foot out of bounds, basically he's laying down and reaches and touches the ball, which at that point makes the ball out of bounds. It was a 35-minute delay while the officials were trying to get a hold of the Officials Association, all these others, and I mean and everybody on the Bellevue sideline was just, what did he do that for? It's going to be our ball at the 2-yard line. 99.9% of the people in that stadium had no idea that, no, it meant you're going to get the ball out at the 40-yard line. Well, they ended up putting them back at the 2-yard line. It could have been a major deal if Bellevue had lost. And so it's one of those things where when people don't understand the nuances of the depth of special teams rules. And special teams rules, there's some crazy cool rules that can make or break the difference. So I thought it was funny, man, to watch people just go ballistic on that. It's like, that's one of those where let's not have it come down to whether our player went inside or outside the hash.
Oh yeah.
We should have won the game by 10 anyway, right? Let's play well enough that doesn't come an issue.
But still, I think it was great to see us. Well, you can roll the tape. I'll say it afterwards.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm not rolling the tape.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it was great to see us kind of look prepared for that moment.
Totally, man. Absolutely.
In the past where we've had onside kicks, it's really kind of been pathetic. Because even though
that was a next man up deal. So keep going with your thought.
It was definitely a next man up deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the past, our onside kicks have kind of looked pathetic in the sense of there was one in the wild card game against Dallas a few years ago. Dixon drop kicked it.
That was brutal.
He drop kicked it like 20 yards down the field.
It's fair catch. It's game over.
Oh yeah,
like
for
you
sure.
didn't even get a chance. Like, I mean,
no, not at all.
The anticipation is part of it, right? Like everybody gets excited for the most exciting play in football, which is the onside kick. And then when that kicker starts to go up there, the best ever is Pat McAfee. I mean, he fake onside, he recovers his own onside, does all those great things. You get one in the Super Bowl later with New Orleans. That wasn't Pat McAfee, but New Orleans does it. But when that happens, and then when that ball gets kicked for that fleeting 0.7 seconds, like you're just on the edge. And then when you see it take that bounce up, or you see it hit and squirmish, and guys are diving, and I mean, people are biting legs in there, and Cameron Hughes is probably twisting feet and pulling face masks trying to get that ball and stuff. It's awesome. And so you're absolutely right, Nick, to see us actually do something that looked like we had tried to create a concept, because they've eliminated so much. I mean, it used to be really fun when you get 10 guys to the same side and they're all just going for it. So it's made it really hard to get something. And then to have a second one that we almost got that one too.
Yeah, I mean, we really did look prepared by the way Myers kind of kicked it, to where it kind of took that kick where it kind of started to roll, bounced up or whatever, and then kind of went over the linebacker, and then our guy Nigel Warrior, who had been on the
Look
IR.
At the name drop. Nick LaBow with the name dropping.
Yeah, who'd been on the IR for the entire season, which is injured reserve, comes back in this game, makes a phenomenal play. He kind of scoops the ball with one arm and just corrals it. And then, unfortunately, Ballor, was a half an inch off. But I think this really solidifies the preparation aspect. Is the very next, we got to redo the onside kick.
Yep.
And so, it kind of did the same thing, and we almost got it again.
Yeah, yeah. And that's again, I think I'm not going to say there's bad coaches in the NFL, but there are definitely coaches who eat and breathe this stuff. And when you can find a special teams coach at any level, like that to me is the way to catapult. You got to find someone that really knows their stuff at that level.
Right.
Because another one that nobody knows. I mean, I've dealt with it twice in my career, and every Thursday we used to go through what we called once in a lifetimes, right? I'd pick
Mhm.
set probably 5 to 7 plays that we would run every 3 weeks. So we did it every week, but I'd mix it up, knowing that guys in your 4 years of high school, we may never be in this situation. Like the California Stanford keep laddering the ball. We had what we called California return. So we would practice every 3 weeks that concept of you can't fall down, you got to keep pitching it, keep the game alive. Da, da, da. Never ever had to use it. Well, there's a thing called the free kick rule that most people don't know about, and that it's happened in the NFL twice last year. I haven't seen it this year yet. If you're anytime, you can do this anytime in the game, but typically when this happens is at the end of a half. I haven't seen it yet at the end of a game, but at the end of a half, if a team's punting the ball and you make a fair catch and you catch it, you can declare a free kick by which your team can go out there, line up like they're going to kick off and just not move. And the kicker can run as far as he wants to kick the ball. And the defense basically has to stay back 10 yards. So it looks like it's a kickoff return, but it might be from your opponent's 32-yard line. And if you make it, it's a field goal. You get 3 points. So we did this last 2 years ago where I was coaching. There was about 3 seconds left in the half. And we had always practiced when we did it. Usually college and NFL, it's just one guy back. When we did it, we would only rush 2 guys and we would spread 9 guys out all over the field. And we'd say, as soon as the ball's kicked, everybody just wave your hands in the air, wave them around like you just don't care. And then keep your elbows in, catch the ball. Well, we did it. We're over at Port Townsend, ball gets punted.
Yeah.
Everybody's waving their hands. We get the catch. We declare it. And man, their coach went ballistic because he didn't know the rule. They can't, why they, line up for kickoff. And of course, our parents are freaking out. Like, what's Marsh doing? Why is he lining up for kickoff? It's not second half. Like nobody knew that we were lining up to kick. No, we end up just fading it just a little bit off to the right on the kick. But to watch the officials try to figure it out and all those things. So yeah, the preparation, man, people.
Oh yeah.
This game of football is not easy.
So many little rules. I mean, the NFL rule book is huge.
So many little things. Yeah, you're right. And the chess match is big. And so to be sitting there talking about let's get rid of a coach who's been the second winningest coach in the NFL over the last decade, or other things. And of course, I'm on the keep Pete bandwagon. I will always be on the. I think he has earned the right to decide when he goes, unless it's back-to-back years. And the reason I say this one, Nick, and I haven't had you research it yet, and then we'll go to another topic. The last topic we'll hit on is I've done the research on all the pro sports teams and what happened after a major, a coach who was extremely successful was starting to get to the point where people were like, get rid of him. They're kind of bored with him. And then they left, and what it looked like the following year or two. And I'm going back to the couple years when we had decent Mariners baseball teams.
Yep.
Definitely during the George Karl era for basketball, which I think you were probably only 12 back then, or probably not born yet. But the Seahawks, man, everybody wanted to get rid of a guy named Mike Holmgren. And yeah, he had a bad final year, and then it was going to be, but the new coach coming in, well, gosh, we had a couple of bad years there, right? Same thing at the University of Washington. Had to get rid of Don James, and then unfortunately he had to leave. And then all of a sudden it was like, I'll get rid of Lambright, and then all of a sudden we go down to the tank. We go 0-11 a few years later with Willingham, and that was after Neuheisel. Neuheisel comes in, goes to the Rose Bowl. Oh, we got to get rid of him. Man, we got to be careful when we start saying let's get rid of people so quickly when they've been successful, just because we're kind of bored with the way they run the ball. We're bored with the way they.
Well, I think kind of the same thing too with the whole Shane Waldron thing. Like,
oh yeah, please.
He's only been for a year, guys. I mean, I'd like to see a list of offensive coordinators who've won big time. Like I'm talking conference championship, Super Bowl, even the divisional round, winning the division. I'd like to see how many offensive coordinators in their first season have gotten to that level. I mean, even if you do get to that level, you're going to have struggles. We saw it when Schottenheimer got here. And so I think it also kind of goes to,
and let's not be confused. McVay didn't become a head coach, offensive coordinator in his first year. He was an offensive coordinator
Yeah.
Then he became a head coach. That's
Right.
different than Shane Waldron, who's a first-year offensive
Right.
coordinator, right? So
Yep.
people kind of go, you can't really put him in the same boat with those other people because those
That's
guys
true.
who are head coach offensive
Yeah.
coordinators, they had a chance to go through these tough times to where Waldron he's installing, and he's got a quarterback that I don't think is completely bought in to what he's trying to do. And I've got the proof, and I've got
Right.
15 plays that I can show you that's like very evident that it's not happening. So, there's going to be issues. I mean, I remember my first year calling offensive play. It's tough, man. You run that, you got 8 seconds. Everybody's got an eternity to second guess it, but you have at max 8 seconds, and you got an offensive line coach in you. You got a head coach who might, debate you what you're saying. You got a running backs guy. You're trying to figure out the down and distance, and you're looking at plays, but you're also thinking, I got to think 3 plays ahead. And man, and you're talking to the guy in the booth. Hey, did the end rush? Go on, see, we got the bootleg 3 plays down the road. And then 8 seconds, you got to make the right play. And so that's where there's struggles.
Yeah.
And still, Russell doesn't check. Russell checks out of plays that are running plays to other running plays. Nick, the last 17 times I've seen Russ check a 3rd and 2 or less, he's checked us a run play to the right. I sit with friends now who tell me that. Like, I mean, I've counted it, but I've told so many people over the course of the last 2 years that now when I'm sitting watching with people who have watched me, if it's 3rd and 2 or less, and you see him all of a sudden, hey, checking stuff, it will be a running zone play to the right. And we have got like maybe 2 of those as first downs. So it's little things like that it's like, man, is it because Russ just hasn't bought in? And again, I know he's a great player. I know he does some good things. I just say we have a chance to do some other stuff. So speaking of Russ, that was my segue into something here. Let me see if I can get it. There was a tweet that happened today. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Get it up onto there it is. So we had this tweet that took place. I'm going to make myself bigger just for a second so people can see it. Nick, talk about this tweet because I think it came out today, right?
Yeah, it did. So Jordan Schultz, who's an NFL kind of sports reporter, he kind of dropped a little bomb here mid-season. Russell Wilson would strongly consider waiving his no trade clause if a trade happened to the Giants, Broncos, and or Saints.
Man, that is just so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that it's coming out mid-season. I mean, last season this kind of came out, but it was March. It was free agency era. It was in the time where you could still trade. Like, we're 4 weeks past the trade deadline, and then we still have like 3-4 months until free agency, and players can get traded again. So I think it's kind of odd that it's coming out now. But you know what? I mean, this team struggled this season. A lot of people have said I think the Seahawks fan base is kind of split. There's some sides that's like, fire everyone, fire Pete, fire Ken Norton Jr., fire Shane Waldron, fire Snyder. And then there's kind of the other side where it's like, I'm going to take that back. I think there's kind of a third side too. One side, fire everyone. Second side, kind of, run it back, keep the guys, build around Russ more, have a good offseason. And then that third and final side, which is kind of maybe embrace more of a rebuild or say a retooling, maybe move on from Russ, Bobby Wagner, some of these big veteran contracts and get younger. So, I mean,
I look forward to our show here in a couple of weeks over the holiday break when we talk about the contracts and what we should do with Russ and those things, given that it was 10 months ago that I went on a show and said that I think he will be gone in a year and just got shredded. And then I went on another show of another group and I said the same thing. I was the only one. I got shredded. And it wasn't because I wanted him to go. It's because I just thought this is where we're headed. And now I believe more than ever. And when you sent me that tweet, I mean, you're the guy who broke the news to me. When I saw that tweet, it was like, okay, who's sending this out? Obviously, he's mentioned it to somebody. That's now 6 teams because he mentioned 4 teams. Somebody mentioned 4 teams last January, right? It was his agent, and then all of a sudden there's a couple more. And like you said, Nick, I mean, the timing of it is just bizarre, but it just kind of falls in line with a lot of the kind of the bizarre things. But especially coming off a win, like I get it if it's, well, I don't get it at all in the season, but if it's, we've lost our 4th game and 49ers came back and beat us and he's just like, he's done. Okay. Then just tell us you're done. Like, okay, well, you gave us some great years and that's awesome. Let's all shake hands, hug, and move along. Like, I really hope it's amicable when we leave. I don't want to be this Russ and Pete hate each other, because we just don't need that. That's the way it was prior to your birth, when George Karl and Sean Kemp and all those guys broke apart. And it was like, you guys had such a great run, and now you kind of hate each other at the moment.
Yeah,
So,
and Cameron actually, whose comments on the screen, he was the one who kind of broke the news to me. I then forwarded it to you. So, yeah. Cameron,
there it is. Well,
thank you for that.
Cameron's our financial guru. He's the S&P 500 stock promoter of football information. So I just got to find time to get him. Cameron's a busy dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just very, very weird when that stuff takes place. And it's just one of those, again, we don't see it from our left tackle. We don't see it from Tyler Lockett. We don't see it from, haven't seen it from Bobby Wagner. A lot of those people, it's just kind of a bummer that, on the heels of a fun win, that maybe we're not going to make the playoffs, but why call attention to yourself again on that stuff? You just don't need it.
I kind of want to put this out here. I'm interested to see what the 12s and our fan base's reaction would be if it was another player and it wasn't Russ. I think it'd be a lot different if, say,
give me an example. Give me 2 players that if they did the same thing, and what you think the reaction might be.
So, I mean, I'll give an example here. Say Jamal Adams did this, which he did in New York. He said he wanted to go. In New York was a different situation than us or whatever. He was still on his rookie deal. They weren't winning. They weren't going to win anytime soon. They were blowing it up again.
Yeah.
He eventually
which they kind of do every 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But you're right. This is a great example you're giving.
Yeah. So, and the fans kind of were mad at him. He was kind of their guy that they were going to build their team around. He was really their only star player. And so, having him leave was definitely tough for them, even though they did get a lot in return. Or I'll say a lot of potential in return. But, I think it'd be a lot different of a reaction from the 12s if it was a guy like Quandre Diggs or maybe even Tyler Lockett doing this.
What do you think it would be if it was if Tyler Lockett did it?
I think it'd be kind of anger towards him. Like, get him out of here. He doesn't want to be here. Give up on him. Same deal with kind of Quandre Diggs.
We can find another player just like we can replace him.
Yeah.
He's replaceable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. DK's our wide receiver 1. We don't need you. Stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's so unfortunate. I mean, I can't wait to put out this piece. And again, it's not about trying to slam anybody, because I'll show some positives. But seriously, when you see some of the blocking, when you see the difference between Tyler Lockett blocking, like I struggle finding a play where he doesn't block well. I can find 10 plays in a half that DK hurts us with his lack of blocking, not in terms of skill, but I can find 3 or 4 where his lack of blocking hurts the play. Like it's not lack of skill, it's his lack of effort. And so that's where I get a little frustrated. It's like, man, you want to be the guy. You have the ability to be the guy. You have the football IQ. So I think you do, but at times, like, a little questionable at the end of games where you're trying to get extra yards. But hey, I can applaud that effort. That's effort. But when you just do not try because you haven't had the ball thrown to you or what have you, Tyler Lockett can certainly get upset when it's 3rd and 2 and he's wide open on an out route and we throw deep down the field to DK Metcalf and the ball goes way out of bounds. And I've seen that many, many times, right? We saw it in the Washington game. There was a great view that they show from above where Tyler is wide open. He's wow, as we call it. And you know what wow means. He's wide open in the middle of the field. And we throw deep to DK and it's incomplete. And we only needed, so that's where that West Coast offense mentality of throw on first down, which, I mean, talk about opening the game, right? First play of the game. And I told you, I would have bet my everything that we were going to throw the ball to DK Metcalf on the first play of the game because of what he's done the last few weeks and how he ended last week. Like, we got to get this guy in the game. So the defense totally adjusted, and that's why they crushed him because they changed their nickel coverage. And I pointed out to you, and I sent you the video on that one. So they crushed him on first down, but it's still pass first. Second down is run. Now you're going to run, and Russ gets upset at that at times. But we do that. We go pass. We get 8 yards on later on. We go 1st and 10, 8 yards to lock it. Perfect. 2nd and 2, Russ is upset. You can see it in his face. Man, he didn't get the play call he wanted, but we get a running play, get stuffed. They check us out of it then. Like, check us out of the running play if you didn't like it. But he didn't or can't, whatever. And now it's 3rd and 2, and he's got trips and a single, 3-by-1, and he throws the deep route when 2 of the 3 guys are open, and Tyler is wide open because of the bail corner.
Yeah.
And then same thing on the sprint, on the swing pass. Swing passes there. That's the only guy he's supposed to throw to. Nobody else is even running routes to catch the ball. They're going out to block. DK barely tries to run the route, throw the swing pass, but since he doesn't, and then he starts scrambling, starts to get sacked, ball goes back, and what's everybody yelling? The O-line, the right tackle, the right. No. That ball needed to be out of his hands in less than a second. There's not a West Coast offensive play other than, if it's a bootleg, that's different. A drop back pass in the West Coast should never be more than 1.3 seconds. Go all the way back to Bill Walsh, man.
And one thing I do want
that's where I get frustrated.
Yeah, it is. And one thing I do want to point out on the blocking thing, Tyler Lockett's a much better blocker than DK, no doubt about it. DK's like what? 6'3", 6'4", 200 and like what?
He's a piece of granite. He's like 235 probably.
Yeah, and then Lockett's this like little 5'9" slot receiver, and he's blocking better than DK Metcalf. DK should be like pancaking these DBs.
Well, and let me tell you where that stems from. And it's easy to, when guys are in your face they're playing jam coverage, and you can just you can bicep them up and take them and drill them into the ground. Like he should be able to do that. He does that. That's great. When you have to learn how to block a guy in an island, which is basically run out, sit in a chair like you're playing basketball, and slide left and right and play strike, punch, strike. And whichever direction he goes, that DB is wrong. But DK doesn't do that. He runs, he lunges, he goes after it. Now, and I'm not saying that I'm an NFL wide receiver coach, but I've done enough wide receiver clinics and talked to enough coaches and worked with dudes at that level. All those things. Like I've seen them one-on-one. I've been around them. I've done stuff with them. Everything. It's awesome. Like I love wide receiver play. That's why I kind of nitpick it so much.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett, on the other hand, he's the one who's always chopping his feet, settling into the chair, sliding back and forth, getting the block down the field that's crucial. It's getting. Who do they ask to do crackback blocks? Tyler Lockett. He's the guy you see doing crackbacks on the linebacker. DK misses the block, and I was going to show it tonight, but I'll put it in a video tomorrow. Guy's right next to him, just barely to his inside, and he takes a poor step. He takes a long lunging step. And where it stems from, Nick, is that how many videos during the summer do you see of dudes blocking? Have you seen any videos of our wide receiver working on his blocking? And I'm not saying he doesn't. Of course he does. They all do. But I've seen a lot of other wide receivers when they show their, springtime stuff, or they're doing on Instagram and things like that. I can tell that the footwork they're working on is blocking footwork. I've yet to find a video on DK Metcalf where he's showing a drill that he's doing, whether it's with Russ in the summer or he's doing his own thing, where I can see him do it. And again, I'm not with him all the time. I'm not here to crunch him and say that he's bad or he's not working on it. But I think there's such an overemphasis on he's so fast and let's get him the deep ball that it's like, no, man, let's teach him to catch the slant and the out route for the West Coast offense, a la Jerry Rice, a la Randy Moss, a la those guys who caught slants and ran them for touchdowns like DK did last year. He caught 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Not the deep ball. That's not going to happen, man.
Mm-mm. I'll tell you this. There are a lot of videos on Instagram of DK going down to wherever it is, Cabo or San Diego or somewhere in California, at Russ's own little private field and catching 5-yard slant routes from him. But yeah, I mean,
here's a great comment from Cameron. And again, because I'm not worried about DK watching it. And again, I want him to succeed, but if we were to trade him, like I'd say, we just traded our second best wide receiver, and most teams when they trade their second best wide receiver, it's a no news issue.
Right.
Any other team when they trade their second wide receiver, it's not that big of news. If we traded DK,
it'd be.
I mean, people would freak, right? It'd be the
week.
top story, and people all the time like they haven't targeted him, but this many times. I'm like, okay, no big deal. Let's make sure we're targeting our number one guy, which is Tyler Lockett, who, by the way, seems to get open a lot in the back of the end zone and seems to catch those balls over his shoulder and goes up high points and does all those things. Now, it was nice to see DK high point one, even though it went out of bounds. But great point here. I've heard it many times say my father played in the NFL and all those other things. That is great and all, but there still comes a point where it has to be relevant to what today's game is.
Right.
His dad's a lineman, all those things could play, but you're a beast, man. So you have to learn how to play. And what I would hope, and I said this last year on one of the shows, roundtables I was on, I'm a big believer in connecting with a mentor. Like, I think you have to have someone who's just ahead of you that you are connecting to. So I'm not saying like Randy Moss or those guys, but like DK, who are the most relevant wide receivers in the last 5 years that are your size? There's not many.
Yeah.
I would hope, and I'm not saying he's not, I don't know, but I would hope that he has connected with those guys. It is what I loved about Russell Wilson, that after that first year, he watched every single snap that Drew Brees took, right? Every single, because he wanted to see what made him great. Like that's the perfect concept of a mentor who's still around the league, but he's older. I'll connect with him, make this work. I think DK is more into the, man, I'll figure it out. You don't need to be around me. If I get pissed, I'll just go to the sideline and just be by myself. Don't talk to me. And I get this kind of the modern day player, and I can coach to those type of guys too. But there comes a point where it's like, man, you shouldn't have as many penalties as you have catches in a game, dude.
And I think that one thing that would really benefit DK is if he had that mentor as a coach on our team, on our sideline. So then when he does have those kind of moments where he is kind of, lack of a better word, but not being totally under control, and kind of throwing a tantrum, he has a guy that he looks up to, knows him, that can really calm him down and move all that negative energy onto his production on the field and turn it into
You
a
nailed
chip
it.
on his shoulder
I gotta
him.
stop you right there, Nick, because you said the most pertinent line of that whole thing you just said is being able to channel that energy into a positive on the field, right? Like when I see him get upset, I want to see him come out the next play and crush somebody with put him in the backfield for all I care.
Yeah.
Line him up at fullback or get whatever. But you should see him go out there and take over, like we talked about earlier in the show, right? Like become that playmaker. Like, I'm so upset, I'm going to go out. And that's what the greats did at any position. When they got upset, go do your thing. But that veteran player, like you're talking about, is in that kind of been there, done that position. But they would also be the first one to go, dude, you got a first-year offensive coordinator. You realize you're pulling away from his ability to do his job. And when he can't do his job, you're not going to get to be able to do your job because you're not going to get the ball thrown to you, which means you're not going to get paid at the end of the season. Like, a veteran can speak that way. A guy who hasn't been around or maybe hasn't played at that level or doesn't understand. And I understand. I get that. Like, there's some dudes that think, hey, my coach didn't play at my level, or my coach wasn't ever as good as I am right now, so I shouldn't respect him, which is such a load of garbage at times.
Yeah.
But there are some coaches that don't get it, or they maybe haven't been there. And I agree. If you bring in somebody that understands, that's been there, but can coach, man, that's, I think there's a place for that on every team. It's called a quality control coach is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a different name, like Jack Easterby, who's now, I think, the president of the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
He used to be the quality. He had a specialized name when Bill Belichick hired him. He was just a field guy. He was just walking around at practice. But Bill Belichick realized, hey, this guy, like, every player confides in this guy. They talk to this guy. So he brings him in and he's like, I'm going to give you a special name. And I can't think of the life of me what that name was. But he's like, I'm going to call you this and hire you full time. And I'm going to tell every player that if there's an issue, they need to go straight to you. Now he's the president of the Houston Texans, all because he understood how to talk to players and get them settled. I don't know that we have that. And, it's too hard to do during a game. So that's a great call on your part.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, anything else you want to hit on? We got the, game 10 a.m. early game coming up this week. Got holiday vacation coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd say that we should not underestimate Houston. I think it's very easy.
Is that because our record isn't that much better? It's not like we're cruising through this season, right?
Well, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for that, but I mean, regardless of if it's Tyrod or Davis Mills, they have playmakers on their team, playmakers on the offense and defense. And I think David Culley's I think he's gonna have a solid I think his floor is kinda solid for his coaching level.
Oh
I think
yeah,
he has
yeah,
a lot of potential, and I
yeah.
think it was kind of a under the radar hire that could pan out to be good, just kinda like Dan
Well,
Campbell
look
in
at the off
Detroit.
season they've had. I mean, what a mess. Like, let him
Yeah.
have a real off season where he's not dealing with that stuff
Oh, yeah.
constantly, right?
And regardless of Tyrod or Davis Mills, both can bring different things to the table. Both are two pretty different players. Tyrod's kind of more that scrambling guy, improviser, while Davis Mills is kind of going to wait in the backfield and kind of look for that over the middle pass. But Houston has players, they can run the football. They have a lot
Yeah.
of solid running backs that can
They're not scared of
produce.
us. They're
No,
not
they
going to be
aren't.
scared of us, right? Because we don't have a player to be scared of.
Yeah.
We don't have a player to be scared of.
Yeah.
Answer this real quick, or give it like a 30-second summation of what Cameron Hughes put here.
Okay.
I'm curious on your thought on this one. Then I'll give you mine. He thinks DK has a mentor in his own receiving room in Tyler Lockett. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that Tyler Lockett is a leader. I think he's a good leader, but I think DK needs kind of a different type of that. A guy a guy like a Richard Sherman who will kind of, when you're having that temper tantrum or whatever, he's going to get in your face, he's going to fire you up, and he's going to transfer that energy onto the field and really kind of make you feel that you're not the highest in the room. Like Richard Sherman can do that where he's really getting into you and stuff. I think would be a great mentor for him. I think he's a great leader, but Tyler doesn't seem like the kind of conflict dude that I think DK could need or does need. So I think if he kind of got a mentor, yeah. So if Cameron just sent a comment.
Well, and I'm going to speak to that. So, and
Yeah,
we used to say that a
completely
player
agree
like
with him.
Tyler Lockett, he's the type of leader that's from Missouri, because Missouri is the show me state, which means Tyler Lockett's going to show you how to be a good player, right? But he's probably
Right.
not going to say much. Just like Bobby Wagner and a Jamal
Mhm.
Adams. One's going to be the quiet leader who's going to show you how to, with his
Kinda like
presence.
Earl Thomas too.
And yep, I was just going to say the old guard was, maybe a Cam and a Earl Thomas, because Richard
Right.
and Earl obviously were talkers, but Cam seemed like kind of, bam, bam, I'm going to show you with my hard play. And of course he was vocal, but
Mhm.
he didn't seem like on the sideline. He defaulted to some of the other dudes until he had to have his moment.
Yeah.
And I think so. Tyler's kind of that type of guy, right? Where he's,
Yeah.
man, everything he does on and off the field. Like, why wouldn't you hang out with him? Why is he not in those videos in the spring and the summer down in California and who knows why? Not saying he
Walter
doesn't like to
Payton
do
Man
it.
of the Year nominee.
Yeah. I
Tyler
mean,
Lockett.
the guy's just great. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's going to be I think it's going to be interesting. I think every game from here on out's fun because it's playoff
Yeah.
time for the Seahawks, right? I mean, you gotta win. Nice that we did get the win last week, but got to keep it rocking and rolling. So, well, man, any final thoughts before we head on our way?
Go Hawks. Gotta get the win. It was great to have the show. I mean, I think it's been a month or so.
Yeah,
We both kind of had
a lot of things going on.
conflicting schedules. But it's great to have it back, and I think we'll have some special team stuff coming next week.
Oh yeah, time to rise with the Seahawks. Just like that, man. That's what we got to do. Got to have the Seahawks rising, getting back. That's the beauty of the NFL too, right? Like even if the end of the year doesn't end up on the greatest note, I don't really think there's a whole lot of rebuilding that takes place, at least not with Seattle Seahawks football. Now, Schneider sticks around those things, we're going to be right back in it. But we still got this season to go, and it's going to be intriguing, especially with tweets that came out like today. So with that, man, I'm going to send everybody on their way, man. So appreciate everybody being with us. And with that, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.